Welcome to Life Stories, where real strength is revealed in the face of injustice. Today's story is one of courage, resilience, and an unexpected twist that left an entire courtroom speechless. When twin sisters Maya and Lauren Carter walked into court to challenge an unfair eviction, they had no idea they would be facing a corrupt judge determined to silence them. But what happened next turned the tables in a way no one could have predicted. Stay with us as we unfold this incredible journey of truth and power. Subscribe to our channel to begin today's story with Life Stories. The air inside the courtroom was thick, almost suffocating. It wasn't just the heat from too many bodies crammed into one place, nor the sharp scent of polished wood and old law books. It was something deeper. A kind of unspoken tension that settled over the room, pressing against every chest, making breaths feel just a little bit heavier. I had seen many trials in my time, but there was something about this one that made my pulse quicken. Maybe it was the way the doors swung open, revealing Maya and Lauren Carter, walking side by side with an unshaken resolve that set them apart from the others who had entered this courtroom before them. Identical twins, yes, but there was nothing ordinary about them. Maya, in an immaculate white blouse, and Lauren, in a navy blazer tailored to perfection, walked with a quiet confidence that commanded attention. There was no arrogance, no unnecessary display, just an unshakable sense of purpose. They weren't here for a spectacle. They were here for justice. Yet, the man sitting smugly at the plaintiff's table, Donald Reeves, didn't seem to see that. He leaned toward his lawyer, whispering something that curled his thin lips into a sneer. His face, marked by years of self-importance, showed no concern, no remorse, just the certainty of a man who believed the system would always protect him. As Maya and Lauren approached their table, a low murmur rippled through the gallery. It was the kind of sound that carried curiosity, quiet judgment, and perhaps even a hint of expectation that these two young women, elegant as they were, would crumble under pressure. Then came the sharp crack of a gavel. Judge Richard Calloway, a man whose reputation preceded him, scanned the room with a look of barely concealed impatience. He was infamous in Chicago for his abrasive demeanor, for rulings that often tipped in favor of the privileged. He had been on this bench for years, and in that time, he had developed an air of absolute authority, the kind that brooked no challenge. His gaze landed on Maya and Lauren, and I saw it, just for a moment, the flicker of something dark behind his eyes. Disdain. Ladies, he drawled, the word stretching in his mouth as if it tasted bitter. Do you think dressing up like you're at a corporate seminar will impress this court? Perhaps you're confused about the difference between a courtroom and a fashion show. A quiet chuckle rippled through the gallery. Not loud, but loud enough to feel like a slap. Maya's hands curled into tight fists beneath the table, her knuckles whitening. Lauren, ever the composed one, gave her a glance, a silent message. Not now. Don't take the bait. I found myself gripping the edge of my seat. There was something about that exchange, the quiet strength in the way they held themselves, that sent a chill down my spine. The hearing began, but it quickly became clear that Judge Calloway had already made up his mind. He interrupted them at every opportunity, his tone dripping with sarcasm. He dismissed their arguments before they could finish a sentence, making it painfully obvious that he had no intention of listening. Let me guess, he sneered at one point, leaning back in his chair with exaggerated boredom. You two think you're entitled to special treatment. Maybe you've been watching too much television. Lauren, unfazed, continued speaking, her voice steady. Your Honor, our argument is based on legal precedent. We are not asking for special treatment, only that the law be applied fairly. Maya followed, presenting their case with meticulous detail, pointing out Reeves' unlawful clauses in the eviction notice, the questionable practices in his leasing agreements, the blatant disregard for tenant rights. But every point they made only seemed to deepen the judge's irritation. His lips tightened, His fingers drummed impatiently against the bench. And then, at last, he leaned forward, his gaze sharp as a blade. "You too may have fooled some people," he said coldly, "but not me. I can see right through your type." The words hung in the air, poisonous and heavy. A collective gasp spread through the gallery, as if the entire room had just realized the weight of what had been said. Maya's jaw clenched. But Lauren, ever the strategist, placed a calming hand on her sister's arm. Their eyes met briefly, a silent vow not to let this man rattle them. Yet, the tension in the room had reached a breaking point. Every person in the gallery leaned forward, waiting to see what the twins would do. I held my breath, because in that moment, I knew that something far bigger than a simple eviction case was unfolding before us. This was not just about a landlord and his tenants. This was about power, about who was allowed to be heard, and who was silenced. And Maya and Lauren Carter, they weren't the type to be silenced. The weight of Judge Calloway's words lingered in the air like a thick fog, suffocating and inescapable. The courtroom had fallen into a stunned silence, the kind that stretched too long and made your skin prickle. I could see Maya's fingers tighten around the edge of the table, her knuckles ghostly white against the polished wood. She wasn't just holding herself back, she was restraining an entire lifetime of moments like this. Moments where people in power had spoken down to her, dismissed her, underestimated her. Lauren, ever the steady presence, kept her hand firmly on her sister's arm. She wasn't just calming Maya, she was reminding her of something. A bigger picture, a greater purpose. And that was the difference between them. Maya was fire, quick, relentless, unable to stand injustice without flaring up. Lauren was ice, calculated, methodical, always thinking 3 steps ahead. Together, they were unstoppable. But Judge Calloway didn't know that. Not yet. He leaned back, a smirk tugging at the corner of his lips, as if he had already won. His arrogance was suffocating, the kind that only comes from years of unchecked power. He believed he had seen their kind before, and that made him reckless. The hearing continued, though it was clear Calloway had no intention of ruling in their favor. He cut them off, dismissed crucial evidence, and shot down every attempt they made to expose the illegal eviction. It was a performance, a carefully constructed charade of justice, designed to wear them down, to break their resolve. But Maya and Lauren did not break. Even as their arguments were ignored, even as the judge all but laughed in their faces, they stayed steady, their voices unwavering. They knew they wouldn't win today. This wasn't about today. And Calloway had no idea he was already losing. As the hearing came to a close, the judge exhaled sharply, as if he had wasted too much breath on them. "The court will deliberate on the matter and issue a ruling soon," he said, though his tone made it clear what that ruling would be. Then, with a final, patronizing glance at the twins, he banged his gavel. Case dismissed. The murmur in the gallery was immediate. People whispered, eyes darting between Maya, Lauren, and the judge. Some faces held disappointment, others smug satisfaction. But beneath it all, there was a hum of something else. Uncertainty. People had expected the twins to walk away defeated, to shrink beneath Calloway's authority, to accept their fate. But instead, Maya and Lauren stood tall, shoulders squared, heads high. They were not beaten. As they gathered their papers, preparing to leave, I saw Calloway watching them, waiting for a reaction. When none came, his smirk deepened. He thought their silence was submission. But I had seen enough to know better. Lauren turned to her sister, her voice barely above a whisper. But I caught the words. "Not here," she murmured. "Not now." Maya exhaled sharply but nodded. They moved as one, stepping away from the defense table, heels clicking softly against the marble floor. The crowd parted as they walked through, eyes following them. Even Reeves, their smug-faced landlord, watched them with an air of nervousness he hadn't shown before. Outside the courtroom, the air was crisp, the late afternoon sun stretching long shadows across the grand courthouse steps. But before they could take another breath, a voice cut through the quiet. "Miss Carter, a moment of your time?" A reporter, microphone in hand, camera light blinking like a hungry predator waiting for a reaction. Maya tensed. Lauren, without missing a beat, placed a firm hand on her sister's arm. "Not here," she repeated, her voice calm, but unyielding. Maya hesitated. I saw the storm in her eyes, the fire crackling behind them, but she exhaled, then stepped back. The reporter frowned, sensing a missed opportunity, but didn't push further. Then, behind them, the sound of deliberate footsteps. Slow, measured. A shadow fell across the courthouse steps. They didn't need to turn to know who it was. Judge Calloway. He approached with the arrogance of a man who believed he owned not just the courthouse, but justice itself. Flanked by 2 security guards, he stopped just a few feet away, looking down at them like they were an afterthought. Well, he drawled, his voice dripping with mock amusement. "Running away already? I thought you two had more backbone." Maya stopped mid-stride, turned slowly. The tension in the air was electric. "We're not running, Judge," she said, her voice steady, her chin lifted. "We're walking away because this is beneath us." Calloway's smirk widened, the kind that made you want to throw something sharp at him. "Beneath you," he scoffed. The arrogance. He paused, letting the moment stretch, his eyes narrowing. "I hope you're ready to lose." Lauren stepped forward then. Not just calm ice. "We're not the ones losing, Judge," she said smoothly. "Your bias is on full display. And it's embarrassing for you." For a fraction of a second, his smirk faltered. A tiny crack in the mask of control he so carefully maintained. And then, just as quickly, it was gone. He straightened his tie, shaking his head. "Watch yourself, young lady," he said, his voice suddenly sharp. "Disrespecting a judge doesn't end well." Lauren didn't flinch. Neither does disrespecting justice. Calloway opened his mouth to respond, but the twins had already turned, walking away in perfect sync, their heels clicking against the marble floor like a war drum. As they reached their car, Maya's composure cracked. "Who does he think he is?" she hissed, pacing near the curb. "He thinks he's untouchable. Lauren. He doesn't even know who we are." Lauren leaned against the car, arms crossed, watching her sister with a small, knowing smile. Then, finally, she spoke. "Then maybe it's time we remind him." Maya stopped pacing, stared at her. A slow, wicked grin spread across Lauren's face. "Oh, you'll see." The courtroom was silent, but the weight of the moment was deafening. Judge Calloway sat frozen, his usual smirk wiped clean as the truth unraveled before him. The entire gallery had just witnessed what power truly looked like, not in the form of an old man in a robe, but in 2 women who refused to be silenced. Maya and Lauren Carter had not only exposed their corrupt landlord but had also shattered the illusion of Calloway's untouchable authority. With the evidence laid bare, the judge had no choice but to recuse himself, his career hanging by a thread. As the twins walked out, a wave of cheers erupted outside the courthouse. Justice had been served. But their fight wasn't over. They would always be ready to remind the world real strength lies in standing up for what's right. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible life stories.